Bayet David, welcome to the show. In this show we're going to explain in full detail as to how we get from this word David, the house of David, written on this old stone rock, to what we have today, the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament. How did we get from point 1 or point A to point B? Stay tuned. We shall investigate, get the record straight. Posse in effect got Flamer Terminator.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds a go. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Oakley Dokley, the Teldan steel. Even though it's made of stone, the word is steel. Yeah. Have some fun. The Teldan steel is a fragmentary steel discovered in 1993 in Teldan by Gila Cook. Don't know if I pronounced that right. A member of the archaeological team led by Avraham Baran. The pieces having been used to construct an ancient stone wall that has survived into modern times. It is still in several pieces and contains several lines of Aramaic, closely related to Hebrew, an historically common language among the Jews. Okay, so the Aramaic alphabet and other early Hebrew alphabets are identical, but they're different languages. That's what got me confused, because I was thinking, well, that's not the word for house in Hebrew, but it wasn't. It was the word for house in Aramaic. So, how do you show the mouse? Okay, I'll set up my mouse to make it look cool, but I got a minus magnifying glass for this shot. So this is the Aramaic word for bayet, for house. And this is D-Y-D, V or W, Dawood, Bayet, Dawood. So if you want to buy some wood, call 0800 buy the wood. So that's the House of David. And so this is from the 9th century BC. Look at my mouse, I love it. It's huge. Wow, I should be using it all the time. The surviving inscription, which dates to 9th century BCE, details that an individual called Jehoram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, and the king of the house of David. These writings corroborate passages from the Bible. So this is the earliest bit of writing that belongs to the Bible. So how do we get from this to what we have today? Well, we won't go through every step. We'll kind of, rush through it, but slowly. I'm not going to point out every single thing that has a word on it. We'll be here for years. So how do we get from that rock with the House of David on it to the Satanic Bible, this Life Application Bible?
I have my Life Application New International Version of the Bible. I actually bought this for my wife several years ago. She took one look at it and said, I don't like it. And I got really upset because I spent a lot of money on this thing. And I'm glad now that she didn't like it. This is the NIV. This is one that everybody's using now.
The reason why this Bible is satanic is because it has footnotes and maps and other satanic evil stuff. So that's cool. I love this. I got this in an op shop. Just randomly, it was just there. I like $5 or something. My God, what a score. You gonna tell me the price or not? No. I'll put a name in it. Yeah, so, right. So, step 2. Zadid asi scrolls. We got to them? Yeah, okay. Okay, so the true story behind the Dead Sea Scrolls as of today. ancient Jewish religious manuscripts that were found in the Qumran caves in the Judean desert near Ain Fishka on the north shore of the Dead Sea in the West Bank. Scholarly consensus dates the scrolls from the last 3 centuries BC and the 1st century CE. The texts have great historical, religious and linguistic significance because they include the second oldest known surviving manuscript of the works later included in the Hebrew Bible canon, which is this. This is the Hebrew Bible canon, and it doesn't fire shells. They took the shells out. So this is my dream, to go to Israel just to view the great Isaiah scroll. It's very, yeah, I mean, I've had a go at translating it. The text, if you blow it up, it's like there's tears in the paper and bits have faded. So hats off to the actual scholars that do that sort of stuff for a living and get paid chicken pence for it. What? I was going to say peanuts for it. So that's it. And it's from, say, 408 BCE to 318 BCE. These are the facts. I'm just telling you that because something else is going to happen in the next episode. So it's written in Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and Nabatean Aramaic. Oh my gosh. Check this out. I'm a nerd. Okay, I know that alphabet. I only know it because I spent hours drawing the letters by hand, and you actually learn the letters. I don't know the language, but I know what the letters are. How cool is that? So, awesome. On to the Septuagint next. So then we come across this big heavy sucker, the Septuagint. This cost me $37, but, well, it's a Septuagint, dude. What does money mean? When you got this is the Old Testament translated into Greek under, apparently by 70 scholars did the translation. Extant Koine Greek translation of the books from the Hebrew Bible, various biblical apocrypha and deuterocanonical books, and big words. Here's 5 books, blah 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 blah. The translation of the 70 derives from the story recorded in a letter of Aristeas in the Hebrew Torah, was translated into Greek at the request of Ptolemy to Philadelphus by 70 Jewish scholars, or according to later tradition, 72 scholars. So 2 of them fell asleep, something like that. Yeah, so who's this Philadelphus dude? Ptolemy to Philadelphus. Alright. His father was Sota. I don't know if they're father or sons at this stage. Might be. Yeah. Anywho, so here it is. This is what we're talking about. So this is Dead Sea Scrolls 300 BC, Septuagint. In this case, this is called the Codex Vaticanus. Big words just for saying it was found in the Vatican, mate. And that's 330 AD, so we've skipped 600 years. So Old Testament and New Testament in this case. It's a bit of a treat to read the Old Testament in Greek. Yeah, I don't know, it's fun either way. But there's very different translations, different meanings for the words if they're in Greek to if they're in Hebrew. Different meanings, different roots, you know, the thing where the word came from, the stem of it and stuff like that. Technical stuff here. Anyway, moving forward a couple of 100 years. So then we move on to papyrus number 52. Ladies and gentlemen, here on the stage, P52. That's the back of it, that's the front of it. It's just that. That's all that it is. It's not a page. It's a bit of a page. A quarter of a page. Yeah. So, Papyrus 52. The fragment of papyrus was among a group acquired on the Egyptian market in 1920 by Bernard Grenfell. The original transcription and translation of the fragment of text was not done until 1934. It's been dated possibly to 1000 117 to 138 AD or CE, as it's now named. This dude up here says it's from 125 to 175. Recent research points to a date nearer to 200 AD. So this is 100 years before the Septuagint, the Codex Vaticanus, except this is just a bit of a page. You can go visit it in the Rylands Library in Manchester, England. Yeah, I suppose there would be like a million alarms around it. It's like the rarest piece of the Bible in existence. Yep. So we've got 200 AD, we've got 300 AD. What's next? Stay tuned.
Looks about as big as the King James. Well, as with most food, they put a lot of fillers in here to make it big. There's actually 64,000 less words in this Bible than there is this one. Wonder what they changed. Wonder what they took out.
So then we move on to papyrus number 66. It's this sucker here. It's the oldest surviving actual 3/4 of the book of John. So John 1 and then miss a page, then skip a page and a few more. Dated about 200 AD or 100 to 150 by Hunger, or middle or early or middle 4th century by Nongbree. Sorry about your name there, dude. So this was discovered in 1952. The manuscript was found in 1952 at Jabal Abu Mana near Dishna in Egypt, and I can pronounce city names perfectly. Not. In fact, the preservation of level of P66 surprised scholars because the first 26 leaves were basically fully intact. Say it now, there is no physical copy of Genesis chapter 1 through to about 13, 14. There's none physical outside of the 200 BC. So yeah, those chapters were missing in the Dead Sea Scrolls is what I'm trying to say. So it's hard to get complete books. There's Isaiah Scroll so far is the only thing that's a complete book, and we've got bits of John, we've got bits of Luke, we've got bits of Matthew. No complete Bible, nothing set in stone. It's just all up in the air. I mean, this was discovered, it wasn't discovered till 1952, so bits of Bible translations into Latin or English or whatever wouldn't have these words in them, right? It was published in 1956 and was the most important New Testament manuscript publication since the Chester Beatty Papyri of 1933-1934. It is currently housed at the Cologne, Geneva, Switzerland, Bibliotheca Bodmariana. The papyrus contains 39 folios. That is 78 leaves, 164 pages. There it is in all its glory. Anybody living in Cologne? However you pronounce it, feel special, because P66 is there behind a closed door. My life is over. And there it is. So, yep. So we got from, say 200 AD. So we're gonna take a huge step. Next step is about 1,000 years later. Coming up, stay tuned.
And today's NIV has cut out 64,000 words.
You'll find that the NIV has 64,000, well it did when I checked it, 64,525 less words.
Siri, just a little sidestep before we jump forward in time. This is the Vetus Latina, verses from the Vetus Latina Gospel of John as they appear in the page of the Codex, big word, Versalensis. Codex Versalensis, cool. So the Vetus Latina manuscripts that are preserved today are dated from AD 350 to 13th century. So as far as the Bible is concerned at this time in history, up until the 11th, 12th, 13th century, was in Vetus Latina, and then of course Jerome translated that into modern Latin, Vulgar Latin, in other words Vulgate, in 382. So that's as far as the church in general in Europe. They have the Vulgate. That's all they know about. Nothing else is very looked at, discovered, changed, found yet. So beginnings of forming what is going to become the Bible that we have today. Yeah. So we jump forward to 1502 to Erasmus. Yeah, the dude, Catholic priest. English Erasmus of Rotterdam. 1466, 1536 was a Dutch philosopher and a Christian scholar who is widely considered to be one of the greatest scholars in the Northern Renaissance. As a Catholic priest, Erasmus was an important figure in classical scholarship, who wrote in pure Latin. What a dude. So in 1502 he did his first translation of his Greek New Testament, or if you want to be all nerdy and technical, it's the Graece Testamentum, Novum Testamentum Graece. There you go, it's such a confusing word, can't even spell it. So Erasmus wrote the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather of this. This is called the Nestle Aland. This is the 25th edition. It's what Bible scholars use for Greek. Hebrew's completely different. Documentary, episode, whatever. In 1512, he began his work on the Latin New Testament. He collected all the Vulgate manuscripts he could find to create a critical edition. Note these words for next episode. Critical. Yeah. Right, Erasmus said it was rushed into print, the first edition, 1502, rather than edited, resulting in a number of transcription errors. After comparing what writings he could find, Erasmus wrote corrections between the lines of the manuscripts he was using, among them which was minuscule 2. He sent them as proofs to Froben. His hurried effort was published by his friend Johann Froben of Basel in 1516, and thence became the first published Greek New Testament, the Novum Instrumentum Omne. He gave it a different name. Second edition, 1519. The more familiar term testamentum was used instead of instrumentum, because I like it, that's why. If there's no other reason, it's because I said so. This edition was used by Luther in his German translation of the Bible, written for people who could not understand Latin and were not burnt at the stake for writing Bibles in other languages. Together, the first and second edition sold 3,000 copies, 3,300, and don't forget, these all had to be printed by a printing press? Yeah? Okay. By comparison, only 600 copies of the Complutensium Polyglot were ever printed, which is in like 6 languages. What a feat. This is the printing press days. What an achievement. Wow. Okay, sorry, nerding out again. The third edition, 1522, was used by Tyndale, possibly for the first English New Testament. Thams, 1526. Another episode is the diet of worms. Who ate the worms? And was the basis for the 1550 Robert Stephanus edition used by the translators of the Geneva Bible and the King James Version of the English Bible. Erasmus published a 4th edition in 1527 containing parallel columns of the Greek-Latin Vulgate. So we jump ahead from 1522 to 1611. So the translators of the King James have access to Erasmus's 3rd edition of the Greek New Testament, or Robert Stephanus's 1550 edition of the Greek New Testament, so they could chop and change as they wanted to. Okay, so whether it's Stephanus or Erasmus, they use slightly different manuscripts in their compiling of the Greek New Testament. So we have a list here, right in front of our eyes on the screen. Minuscule 1, minuscule 1RK, minuscule 2, minuscule 2AP, minuscule 4AP, minuscule 7P, minuscule 817. And if you had all day, you could click on them and you can look at the gorgeous things. Having said that, it didn't come up. Oh, 1EP. There it is. Look at that. That's gold. That's like, not real gold, but there's a word for it. Whatever. Whoa! I'm just tripping out. Hang on. I just screwed up. What do I do? Whoa! Didn't have a seizure, man. There we go. Alright, that's minuscule again. Kai, I can read bits of it. Oh my god, nerding out. Anyway, so this is one of the manuscripts used in the translation of the King James Bible of 1611. There's minuscule 3 mentioned somewhere. Okay, we'll just have a diversion. Is there a picture of it? No. It's censored. To hide the shape of the earth. Yep. So you can Wikipedia any of this. So 817, and there's this huge thing here that I came across. I've got to talk about this. So this is the Brian Walton. Shit, I forgot his name. Short-term memory loss. Brian Walton's Polyglot appeared in 1652. The book itself came out in 6 great folios. The first volume appeared in 1654, second 1655, third 1656, last 3 1657. Now check this out. 9 languages were used. So it's one book with 9 columns. Hebrew, Aramaic, Samaritan, Syriac, Arabic, Persian, Ethiopic, Greek, Latin. Among his collaborators were James Ussher, i.e. the world was created in 4004 BC on October the 14th. John Lightfoot, Edward Pocock, Edmund Castile, Abraham Wheelock, and Patrick Young, Thomas Hyde, and Thomas Greaves. So what a feat. They're actually like trying to create a modern digital version of this, and they've been working on it for years. It'll be coming out soon. So the rest is all straightforward downhill from here. So we've got the Wycliffe's Bible as an Eastward module, New Testament Wycliffe with the Old. You've got the Coverdale Bible. In the beginning was the Wordy, and the Wordy was with God, and God was the Wordy. We've got the Bishop's Bible, we've got a Geneva Bible, and I downloaded the Chinese in case I wanted to learn Chinese. You can't learn more than one language at a time, so yep, I'm learning Coptic at the moment. This is the Pashita, whatever. There should be a font. I bet you there's a font, which is why it all looks like gibberish. So yeah, there's that, and the Coptic Bohairic. There it is. Can you think it? Yep. So that's the Bohairic language. Enough said about that. Sticking to the main subject. I can take over the rest. I'll take over the rest. I can do it all from here, just off the top of my head. So 1881, so I jumped from 1611 jump forward 200 years, 1881, Westcott and Hort translate the New Testament, the Graece, Novum Testamente Graece, using more Greek manuscripts than Erasmus had access to. But don't forget, this is still 1881, so the Dead Sea Scrolls are still hiding away in that cave. No King James translator flew to Qumran to throw rocks at a jar yet. Never will. So yeah, there's nothing. 1950s papyrus haven't been discovered yet. So they're going with what they got. They're going with what they got back in 1881. So they did a good job. Now I'm going to go back. Sorry, going to jump back 1,000 years to 1008 AD. The Old Testament. This is the technical name for this is the Codex. The Aleppo Codex, get it right, the Aleppo Codex. So this is from 1008 AD, not translated, this is copied from this ancient book, 1008 AD book, to modern paper. That's all he did, and his name was Rudolf Kittel. Or was it Gerhard? I don't want to mix them up, but that comes up later anyway. So this text is, wow, 1008 plus 2020. That's like over 1,000 years. I can't mathematics. Now, so 1881, Westcott and Hort chucking together a Greek New Testament. So now you've got the revised standard version of the authorized version, the new revised standard coming out later. Stuff like that's happening. More translations are coming out as new manuscripts are discovered, dug up, unhinged. No, that's me. And chucked in the books. So we've got this one now. Well, this is from the 70s. So we jump forward 1881 to 1979. This was compiled by Kurt Arland, Matthew Black, Carlo Martini, Bruce Metzger, and Alan Wickgren. This is a third edition, and these dudes basically stuffed all the Greek manuscripts they had access to, plus all the other languages that are being discovered now, into this. And of course, it's 79, so what year is this? 79 as well. So you've got two copies of the same. Well, it is the same now. There used to be variations between these two books. Now they're almost identical, except this one's for nerdy nerd scholars, and this is just for people. I got that the wrong way. This one's for just ordinary people who don't have any superhuman powers. This one's the nerdy SWAT one that has all this guff at the bottom. What's that, a list? Shopping list. And got all this technical guff at the bottom, why the word is missing, where the word comes from, why the word was put there in the first place, and why it was taken away. It's all there in the footnotes. Whereas the red one, just call it the red one, doesn't have as many footnotes. And I got I found a mini red one. Check this out, it's so cute. Anyway, so just open up the blue one. Blue one's got everything you need to know from Westcott and Hort 1881 to Metzger. I've forgotten their names already. Kurt Allen, Matthew Black, Bruce Metzger, Alan Wickgren. To me, these are my superheroes. They're my superheroes. So you open up the front of this book, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of manuscripts, where they were found, how old they are, who wrote them, not. Sorry, I picked up the wrong book. So all the papyrus numbers are listed. There's two in New York right now, there's one in Berlin, there's one in Florence. So yeah, if I could fly around the world, I'd go to all these places. London's got the Sinaiticus, London has the Alexandrinus, Rome has the Vaticanus, Paris has the Ephraemi. So the Sinaiticus, the Alexandrinus, Vaticanus, and the Ephraemi are the majority of verses used in all modern translations, whether it's the NIV for boys, NIV for girls, NIV for trans. You wish. And it's got all the technical names, the LXS is the Septuagint, and blah 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 blah. So every 2 or 3 years a new one of these will come out. So this one goes out the window, this one comes along, look at me, I'm the new Pokemon, goes out the window, next year comes out, look, it's the Yu-Gi-Oh version. Yeah, you're still on your Stephen Dollars trip, are you? Yeah. So that's it, that's everything you need to know in a nutshell, that's everything. So, up to, gets me to my favourite book. Oh, so cute. Yeah. It's heavy, man. It's a big sucker. There's a chronological Bible, which is impossible. Now that I understand the truth, they've got a chronological Bible in the dates that it was supposedly written. But if you went by date of manuscript, it would be an entirely different order. Yeah, and it wouldn't have chapters 1 to 26 in Genesis, because they don't exist in real life until 1008 AD. So where were the first 26 chapters of Genesis for 1,000 years? Genesis 1 to 26. Where were they hiding for 1,000 years? That's an upcoming episode. Just to put the hook out there, fish it in, reel it in. So that's enough. That's all you need to know. That's everything. Right up to today's NIV, TNIV. I paid $10 for it, and I can't even find it. I don't know how to alphabet. Where are you? It's under N. How do you get to N? NIV. There it is. There we go. The hell? The New International Reader's Version. So this is the last one I purchased. I won't be buying any more Bibles because it's no meaning to me. But this is it. So that's how we got to the word David on a rock to this. So the reason why I've said all this, the reason why I have said all of this to get you up to date, is because we're going to go into a conspiracy theory in the next episode where nothing, zip, zero, nada, none of this is true to these people. None of this matters. None of this has any interest to this group of people who have a totally different view about how the Bible came to be. And we're actually going to take on the greatest scientist on earth and have a look at his version of the conspiracy theory, which is obviously a regurgitation of Gale's conspiracy theory. So the conspiracy theory we're looking at is in this book. D. Burgeon probably, I don't know who invented this mythological version, but Dean Burgeon probably, Peter Ruckman, then Gail Ripplinger borrowed it, and you've got a whole cult that regurgitates the myth that we're about to get into. So I hope you've learnt enough to know what's fact, and then we're going to go into what's fiction, which is much more fun. It's much more fun, because for this mythological timeline to exist with these manuscripts, there's a lot of shape-shifting, time warps, interdimensional portals, all sorts of stuff. It's fascinating. Stay tuned.
Falling away first, and the man of sin, man of sin, is what the King James calls him, be revealed. The son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now I'm going to show you, you may not like this, but I'm going to show you how this works, okay? So that he as God, this is pretending to be this. He is God, thy word have I hid in my heart, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And you have whole people who have had nothing about the NIV and the New Living Translation and the New American, they've had nothing but that in their lives. He as God. This is pretending to be this, okay? But so let's get to it.